One of the most painful parts of learning to program is how casually people throw around new words. Server, database, API, backend, webhook, there's dozens of these, okay? And they say these things like they're completely normal. Like you already will understand what they're talking about. And the worst part is, you can get pretty far while still not fully knowing what some of this stuff even is. That's frustrating. So today I'm not going to give you a tutorial, I'm not going to show you how to set anything up. I'm going to explain 4 concepts that are almost always overcomplicated in plain English, so you can actually understand what they are and how they fit together. Let's get started. For a lot of people who want to start programming, you will probably start with web development. And if you start with web development, you will see HTML. It's a very simple language. Within a day, you can probably make something that looks real and get the general idea how it works. Like, all you have to do is open Notepad, write a little bit of it, change the file name to .html, and when you open it with Chrome, you can see what you did. But here's the problem. This file, this web page that you just made, can't remember anything. It can't save data. It can't load user information. It just sits there. This is where servers come in. And servers drove me insane. The first thing I really want to say about them is this. A server is not special hardware. It is not a special machine. It is just a program that you can install onto any computer. Similar to how you can install like Discord or your favorite game. Once you install the server software, your computer is allowed to accept connections from other computers in a very limited and controlled way. That's all a server really is. When another computer connects to your server, whether that's visiting a website or a game connecting you to a match, the server decides what happens next. It decides what information to send back, or what to do with the information it receives. And if you're thinking, oh, but I don't have to type anything to join a server, you're right, that's because the game application is set up to do that part for you. The connection is still happening, you just don't have to type in a URL to see it. So if you started with HTML, and you're confused about how to make your pages actually do something, you're not stupid, you just learned it backwards. Start at the server. After you set up a server, any files that you want to show people or serve to people, such as HTML, are loaded into it. Almost like loading a bullet into a gun. Then you tell your server what someone has to open or connect to in order to access it. I use this gun metaphor because files without a server linking them together really is like a bullet without a gun. There's nothing wrong with it, you just can't really use it. Anyway, the server holds files, and when someone connects, it uses code to know what to show or send to the person who connected. That is about as simple as you can make it. To take this one step further, when you pay for a server, you are just paying someone to run server software on a computer that they always keep on. Usually one that's specifically built to be good at staying online as much as possible. The next thing that I want to talk about that is everywhere in development, but not usually explained very concisely, is a database. Just like a server, a database is software. At its core, a database is just organized tables of information. It literally looks like a spreadsheet, like this. If you want to store users, you make a table called users. If you want people to post things, you make a table called posts. The posts table might store the text someone wrote, the date they wrote it, and anything else you care about. That's it. Your server connects to the database, and when you want your application to remember something, you write code that tells the database to store it. When it needs to check something, it asks the database for it. That is really all that it is. But there is one concept here that confused me way more than it should have. You'll hear people say primary keys and foreign keys. That sounds pretty intense. Here's what it really is. When you add something to a table, you number it. The first user that you add is user number 1. The second user is user number 2. And so on. That number becomes the user's ID. Then, in the posts table, you add a column called something like user_ID. When someone makes a post, you save the ID of the person who made it, along with the post itself. Now, you always know who posted what. It's very easy for a computer to do a lookup of show me all posts made that involve user ID 1. That's it. And just because I brought it up, in this case, because you've got user ID in the posts table, that is the foreign key inside of the posts table. And if you look at the users table, the user ID would be the primary key. It's your primary way of differentiating the data in that table. I would say knowing about this is less important than having a general understanding of how it works, but I don't want to bring up a topic and then not explain it. That is literally why I'm making this video. That was my biggest pet peeve. So yeah, you still need to learn how to code this, but understanding this relationship, that tables store data and they reference each other using simple numbers, will make databases feel a lot less overwhelming. So now we have a server that can show HTML, and we have a database that stores information. So what is an API? API is just a fancy way of saying that you made a URL that sends data instead of a web page. That's it. Earlier, we said that when someone opens a URL, the server sends them back HTML. But it doesn't have to send back a page. It can send back information. For example, imagine a food supplier makes a URL that, if you connect to it, tells you how much stock they have of certain vegetables. Now I, as a developer, can write a program that checks that URL, and if the stock drops too low, my program automatically orders more. That is how you'd use an API, and the code that gives you that information, that is their API. It is just a URL meant for programs or information instead of people. This is how apps connect to websites. This is how one website connects to another. This is how different systems share data. And since people love new terms, here's one more that sounds way more intense than it is. If a system is set up so that whenever something happens, such as a new user joining, it automatically sends data to another system's API, that's called a webhook. APIs at their most basic. They are URLs that can send and receive data. That's it. I think the reason that this stuff feels so confusing at the beginning is because most of us learn how to write code first. We learn Python or JavaScript or some version of C, but no one stops and says, here's what all of this is actually living inside of. You can know how functions work in Python, but not know that the Python exists to tell a server what to do. And that disconnect is exhausting. I'm not saying learning to program is easy. It's not. But it's also not this mysterious layered system that only makes sense after years. Most of the time, the confusion comes from learning the pieces before you learn the structure. It's like trying to learn a new language by memorizing vocabulary, but never being shown the grammar. Once you see the grammar, the words stop feeling random, and you start seeing patterns in it, and things just make more sense. Anyway, thank you for watching. I know this is a little bit different, but I've always wanted to make this video. I just wasn't very comfortable talking about programming because I felt like I sucked at it until like 5 years ago, and that's kind of part of the process. You will feel like you suck at it. People have done it for 20 years now, and getting into it and feeling bad is hard. I'm not saying I know everything, but I feel like I've got a solid grasp on it, and because I was largely self-taught at first, up until my first job, I feel like I remember better than most the confusion that getting into it entails. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm making a silly Elden Ring video that I'm hoping to have come out tomorrow. And until next time, see ya.